Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the show. Today, we're talking about the future of the conservative leadership, kind of essentially as a position here in Canada. Of course, in the last election campaign, the Conservatives, they were unsuccessful after many people, I think, kind of pre-January of 2025, otherwise known as before the time that Donald Trump came back into the Oval Office. Everyone thought that the Conservatives were going to be successful. And then over the course of the election campaign, when it became very much focused on kind of a Canada first mentality, as people like Mark Carney were campaigning on what would make Canada better with respect to tariffs and really trying to stand up to Donald Trump, his kind of messaging, branding himself as a financier and someone who really understands some of the fiscal dynamics at play. That really was difficult for the Conservatives and Pierre Poilievre to clap back at, especially given that Mark Carney kind of rolled back some of the policy decisions that the Justin Trudeau government made, things like the consumer price on carbon, among other things as well. And naturally, in Canadian politics, but really any politics, whenever someone is unsuccessful, the question becomes what actually is going to happen next. You've seen that on smaller examples in Ontario, even where Bonnie Crombie, the leader of the provincial Liberal Party, despite winning her party back party status and getting more seats for them in the legislature, she was not voted out, but she received a very poor showing in the leadership review. And as a result, she herself decided to step down. And so some people are kind of questioning with the leadership review for Pierre Poilievre coming up in the new year. Are we going to maybe see something similar with him? Excited to welcome Anthony Feor, host of Opinionated, to the show. Thanks so much for joining us, Anthony.
Thanks for having me.
Let's just kind of start out because I gave the example there of Bonnie Crombie, and I think it speaks to this pattern that we see in politics that whenever kind of a base is unhappy with the result, they immediately turn and kind of blame the leader at the helm. And I think it's definitely scaled back with Pierre Poilievre. You're not seeing it very much with Pierre Poilievre necessarily, but you are starting to hear rumblings, anyways, of certain Conservative MPs being unsuccessful, starting to speak out against him. In large part, a lot of it seems, is based off of pure opportunism. Some of these MPs might want a chance to run for the leadership themselves. Is that all it is at this point, or is there actually a legitimate question behind the future of his leadership?
Well, good to be with you, and thanks for having me. I don't think he's going anywhere. So I think anybody can come out and jump up and down and say, enough is enough with this guy. I want to start off by giving him a little bit of credit because he did ignite a fire under a lot of Canadian people, brought to light a lot of the issues that were ignored by the previous government. And I've said that on the network many times, including to you and probably private conversations, right? So let's give him a bit of credit before we just run into this. I think he's safe. I don't think he's going anywhere. And I think anybody that's coming out of the woodwork are probably more right smack in the middle centrist conservatives, what's left of the 1990s still lingering in the party. The people I talk to, if you don't like him, you didn't vote for him and you don't like his kind of politics, but the base that's supporting him and how he behaves in the House of Commons, how he talks on Twitter, all of his videos, there is an appetite for that in this country. Especially over the course of the last 10 years that I've been, doing politics, volunteerism, being, sort of in the scene a little bit, you can tell that there's a lot of angry people out there. And I do think he represents that anger.
Is because the question going into the last election before Donald Trump was just, I think, a level of apathy towards Justin Trudeau. People were starting to not pay attention to politics because they were just starting to lose any sense of hope. But then when Mark Carney came onto the political scene, the fact that he was able, as I said kind of in the introduction, to brand himself as a finance guy, someone who's going to be able to deal with the task at hand with respect to tariffs, the Conservatives and Pierre Poilievre really had kind of a challenge grasping at how do they change their line of attack, given most of what they had focused on over the course of the past 10 years under Justin Trudeau's tenure was that he was a carbon tax prime minister, someone who caused inflation. He was, an inflationary prime minister, as a lot of their messaging suggested there. So is it, given that a lot of the challenges that will have to be addressed in the next election, which again, we're already starting to hear rumblings about, but even as we're talking about the budget coming out here shortly as well, just quickly about 30 seconds or so, but is that going to be kind of a challenge for Pierre Poilievre in terms of moving forward when he has such, I guess, not to be overly biased, but a strong opponent?
I think it'll be a challenge if the government actually starts showing results and they stop setting deadlines that they can't meet and they actually start bringing stuff to fruition. So today I just read that a bunch of more trade deals were signed with other countries by Mark Carney, and we're seeing him going around the world, pivoting and actually starting to sign new deals with different countries. I think right now we're also hopped up on the US, but Prime Minister Carney, in my opinion, has proven to be a good leader. He's ignoring the noise. He's jumping on airplanes. He's going to talk to other nations that are understanding how valuable our Canadian exports are to their economies. And in turn, I think that that'll help our country greatly. If things don't get better, I don't think that'll be a challenge for Pierre Poilievre.